For decades, we've seen packed stadiums as symbols of pure excitement. The roar of the crowd, the shared energy, that feeling of being part of something bigger. Togetherness. But what if that very crowd, that symbol of unity, could become a deadly threat? What if the simple act of thousands of people gathering in one place could lead to a catastrophe? This is the true story of the stadium disaster that forever changed how we think about crowds and public safety. It's a story that began with a single horrifying event that exposed a dangerous truth hidden in plain sight. Before this moment, stadium safety was built on a foundation of flawed assumptions. The thinking was simple. People would move calmly, gates were wide enough, and the electric buzz of a massive event would never turn into lethal pressure. The science of crowd dynamics was in its infancy. Most safety plans were focused on what was happening on the field or on the stage, not on the thousands of people packed into the stands. The focus was on preventing riots or field invasions, not on the physics of human bodies being compressed together. Stadiums were designed for viewing, not for managing massive, unpredictable flows of people. The very architecture of these spaces, with their narrow entrances and winding corridors, held a hidden danger that no one had truly accounted for. It was a ticking time bomb, and the clock was about to run out. The day of the event was electric with anticipation. It was the kind of gathering people had been waiting for, and tens of thousands descended on the stadium at once, a river of humanity flowing towards the gates. But this river quickly turned into a bottleneck. The entrances, never designed for such a sudden influx, became dangerously congested. Routine security checks, meant to keep people safe, ironically slowed movement to a crawl. Small delays began to stack up, creating a chain reaction. A 1-minute delay here, a 2-minute slowdown there, it all added up. Out of sight, further back in the swelling crowd, people had no idea what was happening up front. They just knew they weren't moving. And from the control rooms, no one saw the bigger picture. The individual pieces of the puzzle, a slow gate, a large crowd, didn't seem alarming on their own. No one connected the dots until it was tragically too late. This is where the fundamental nature of a crowd reveals its terrifying power. A crowd doesn't behave like a group of individuals making choices. It behaves like a fluid, a single massive entity governed by the laws of physics. As the density of the crowd increased, individual control vanished. People weren't pushing or shoving out of aggression. They were simply being moved by the immense pressure from behind. Those at the back, unaware of the crush happening hundreds of feet ahead, continued to move forward, eager to get inside. Those at the front had nowhere to go. They were trapped against unyielding steel barriers. The pressure began to build, silently and relentlessly. This wasn't panic. There were no screams for help, no signs of a stampede. It was a slow, crushing force, an invisible wave of pressure that was becoming more powerful with every person that joined the back of the line. The very thing that brought them together, their shared excitement, was now creating a fatal physics problem. When the first signs of distress finally became visible, the emergency response systems were completely unprepared for what they were facing. First responders and security personnel weren't trained for crowd compression injuries. They were looking for fights or medical emergencies, not for a disaster caused by physics itself. Communication systems, overwhelmed by the chaos, began to break down. Calls for help went unanswered or misunderstood. The stadium's design, which had contributed to the problem, now hampered the solution. Exits weren't designed for a rapid release of pressure. They were narrow and hard to access. The very systems put in place to protect people were now contributing to the tragedy. It was a catastrophic failure, a complete mismatch between the nature of the disaster and the tools available to fight it. The situation spiraled out of control, overwhelming every safeguard that was supposed to prevent such a thing from happening. The aftermath of the event sent shockwaves across the nation and around the world. The scale of the tragedy was hard to comprehend. How could a day of celebration turn so deadly? In the weeks and months that followed, exhaustive investigations were launched. For the first time, experts began to seriously study the science of crowd movement. They used computer models and survivor testimony to reconstruct the event second by second. Hard questions were finally being asked. How many entrances does a stadium really need? How wide should an exit be to allow for a safe evacuation? Who is ultimately responsible for controlling the flow of a crowd, and at what point should they intervene? The investigation revealed a cascade of failures, from flawed architectural design to inadequate event planning and a profound lack of understanding of crowd dynamics. The old rulebook was thrown out. A new one had to be written. From the ashes of this tragedy, the entire field of modern crowd safety was born. The findings of the investigation led to a revolution in how public venues are designed and managed. Stadium capacities were no longer just a number based on seats. They were recalculated based on safe entry and exit flow rates. The process of entering a venue became a highly regulated and managed science. Staggered entry times, queuing systems, and wider concourses became standard. Limits on crowd density, the number of people per square meter, were strictly enforced. Event safety planning transformed from a simple checklist into a complex, scientific discipline involving crowd modeling, risk assessment, and real-time monitoring. Every aspect of the fan experience, from the moment you arrive in the parking lot to the moment you leave, was re-examined through the lens of safety. So why does a disaster that happened decades ago still matter so much today? Because its lessons are all around us, keeping us safe in ways we don't even notice. Every time you go to a concert and see barricades guiding the lines, that's a lesson learned. Every time you attend a sports game and notice how smoothly the crowd flows in and out, that's a lesson learned. Every major public festival, parade, or gathering you attend is governed by safety rules that were written in the wake of this event. The science of crowd control protects millions of people every single day, working invisibly in the background. Most of us take this safety for granted, never realizing that the seamless experience we enjoy is the direct result of a terrible day that forced us to confront the hidden dangers of a crowd. The most dangerous disasters aren't always the loud, explosive ones. Sometimes the most lethal threats are silent, building slowly and invisibly until the damage is done. The story of this stadium disaster is a sobering reminder of that. It's a lesson in physics, psychology, and the heavy responsibility that comes with gathering thousands of people in one place. It's a tragedy that should never have happened, but one that ultimately led to changes that have saved countless lives since. The next time you're in a large crowd, take a moment to look around at the systems in place to protect you. They are the invisible legacy of this story. Thanks for watching. If you found this story important, please consider subscribing for more deep dives into the events that shaped our world.